There are 130 million girls around the world who are not in school today. Several million of these girls live in my home country, Afghanistan, like the 5-year-old Nabila you just saw. As some people debate whether access to education is a basic human right, and others doubt there is anything we can do to fix the education problem in my country, I would like to share my vision for a solution. But first, I want you to think about the obstacles you had to overcome to attend school. I want you to think about those girls in rural Afghanistan. I want you to think about Nabila. What does stand between her and an education? Where does she even start her fight for an opportunity to learn? Her battle begins at home. She has to convince her male family members to grant her permission to go to school. If she lives in an extended family household, that means seeking permission from each of her grandfather, father, brothers, uncles, and male cousins. And if she manages to get all that, she's one of the very few lucky girls in her community. When she begins her walk to school, she will be verbally harassed, at the very least. Constantly reminded by strangers that she belongs inside those thick walls that surround her house. If she's unlucky, she will have acid thrown on her face. Disfigurement as her reward for simply wanting to go to school. When she gets to school, she will hear that her school principal and teachers have received letters from the Taliban or ISIS, threatening to burn down her school for presuming to educate girls. As her school administration deals with that threat, she finally settles into her morning classes. She's lucky if even one of her teachers has basic knowledge, let alone mastery, of the subject she's assigned to teach. For instance, in Paktika province in southern Afghanistan, of the 3,111 registered teachers, only 16 are female. Of the 16 female teachers, only 1 has graduated high school, and 5 more have completed primary education. But that young girl doesn't know all of this. She's happy to be learning something. Of course, being in school doesn't mean she's safe. During the course of the day, she could very well be poisoned, perhaps making it to the hospital in time to survive. This is another common way opponents protest girls' education. Let's say she survives all of this and gets home safely. As soon as she walks into the door, she has to switch gear and get to work. This is the price of being allowed to go to school. She has to compensate for her absence. She must be diligent and attentive in cooking, cleaning, and looking after her younger siblings to prove that she has not gotten any bad ideas at school that would cause her to act any differently. A small slip-up in her household duties could cost her schooling. And at the end of the day, if she has any time and energy left, if there is light, if she can find the quiet corner and a moment to herself, she might be able to get to her homework. Now, I must remind you that this is not the experience of every single girl in Afghanistan, but rather a few examples of the kinds of obstacles Afghan girls have to overcome, and in most cases, the kinds of challenges they have to face daily in order to receive an education. A recent study by the Human Rights Watch shows that 2/3 of Afghan girls do not go to school. That is 2/3 of girls in my home country. Now picture the same young girl in a boarding school environment. Can you imagine the possibilities? Suddenly, most of the daily barriers she has faced are removed. She has time to dedicate to her education and her development as an individual. Her hours are freed up to focus on her schooling, and thanks to the internet, she has access to teachers from all over the world. She lives in an environment that is designed to enable her to reach her full potential and increase her sense of confidence. She has shifted from living with the reality that her brother's education is more important than hers to believing that her education and her future are equally vital. She can move from believing the common narrative that her reason for being is to raise a family to believing and knowing that she has the ability to have an impact in her nation and to make a difference, to understanding that she has important things to do and that she matters. In looking at the boarding school model from the perspective of a young Afghan girl, it becomes evident that the boarding school model is an ideal solution to the obstacles she faces daily. Implementing this model could mean fueling sustainable development for all of Afghanistan. This is why in 2008, I co-founded the first and only boarding school for girls in Afghanistan, SOLA, School of Leadership, Afghanistan. SOLA is dedicated to giving Afghan girls access to rigorous education that promotes critical thinking, a sense of purpose, and respect for self and others. Bringing this model of education to people in Afghanistan has been difficult. The idea of a young girl living away is counter to tradition. But I'm encouraged by the brave families who believe in their daughters and make it possible. It is so inspiring to watch the fathers, grandfathers, and brothers of my students who not only realize the potential in their young women, but also advocate for other girls in their family networks to attend my school. Today, SOLA draws its students from all across Afghanistan, representing all ethnic groups and religious sects. Most of our students come from rural Afghanistan where access to quality education is rare. In a country like Afghanistan that has been torn apart by decades of conflict, SOLA's model is unique in that it addresses the country's both educational and national concerns. In Afghanistan, ethnic and linguistic differences have prevented us from developing a truly unified national identity. And SOLA is at the forefront of addressing this. An inclusive educational environment is at the heart of our mission. Our curriculum and student life program are designed to promote acceptance and respect for all. In the next 5 years, we aim to expand our model to span grades 6 through 12 and house the students from all 34 provinces in the country. Though risky, my experience over the last decade has convinced me that it is achievable. At SOLA, that young girl from Paktika province learns that collaboration, friendship, and personal growth do not recognize ethnic, linguistic, and religious bounds, and that she and her schoolmates share a common love for learning, and together will become responsible leaders of Afghanistan. US President Abraham Lincoln theorized that the philosophy of the school in one generation will be the philosophy of the government in the next. My hope is that SOLA's inclusive culture and philosophy will ultimately lead to an accepting, empathetic, stable, and peaceful Afghanistan. An Afghanistan where every single girl like Nabila is able to play and learn. Thank you.